is Mr. Stan Laurel.
Now move this over.
And this is Mr. Oliver Hardy. They are, without doubt, the most recognisable comedy double act the world has ever seen.
Goodbye, Ollie. Goodbye, Stanley. 1, 2. Ollie, what? I just thought of something.
To witness the humble beginnings of these kings of comedy, we have to journey back through time to 1890. On June the 16th of that very year, Stan Laurel was born. He was christened Arthur Stanley Jefferson, and his birthplace was a quaint little village called Ulverston in the county of Lancashire, England. If you visit there today, you'll find the world-famous Laurel and Hardy Museum, packed to overflowing with a veritable cornucopia of memorabilia, photographs and movie posters, all dedicated to these two gentle comic geniuses. Stan was born not too far away from his dedicated museum at number 3 Argyle Street. It was his maternal grandmother's house whom, according to his father's published memoirs, was a dear little old lady of fragrant memory. In truth, she was something of a dragon, a strict Methodist who'd punish young Stan for any tiny misdemeanour. Stan lived in his grandmother's home until he was 5 years old and was, by all accounts, quite an introverted child. This shyness was at complete odds to his theatrical father, A.J. Jefferson, who was a self-made impresario and talented stage actor. A.J. had run a very successful acting troupe called the Jefferson Theatre Group, where he'd met and married Madge Metcalfe, Stan's mother, and he was now manager of the illustrious Metropole Theatre in Glasgow, Scotland. Because Stan was never particularly interested in studying at school, in fact many years later, in correspondence with friends, he stated that he was the worst scholar to attend school. His father encouraged him to spend time helping out at the theatre. Stan's love of the stage grew from here as he witnessed the first of many of his father's self-penned comedy revue shows. Sadly, just as Stan was beginning to fashion himself as something of a stage comedian, his mother Madge, who'd always suffered fragile health, passed away in 1908. It was an event that would push Stan on to pursue fame and fortune across the Atlantic Ocean in the land of opportunities. He was soon to be heading for the bright lights of America. Whilst all this was happening, the other half of the comedy duo-to-be was already doing his own thing in America. Oliver Hardy was born on January the 18th, 1892, in the festive town of Harlem, in the state of Georgia. He was the son of a grand lawyer, Oliver Hardy, and his wife, Emily Norvell. Their bouncing baby boy was christened Norvell Hardy, in order to carry on both sides of the family heritage. Ollie would later add the Oliver to his name in memory of his father, who died a mere 18 months into his son's life. The parallels between Stan and Ollie at this time are very striking. Like Stan, Ollie lost a parent at an early age, and this would spur him on to leave his mark on the world too. Also, like Stan, Ollie was uprooted from his family home, as his mother moved the widowed family to the town of Milledgeville, where she managed the Baldwin Hotel. He was sent to a boarding school of sorts, the Georgia Military College, and rebelled against the stern nature of the teaching by becoming the class clown. In the same way as Stan would watch fascinated from the backstage of the Metropole Theatre, Ollie would sit in the lobby of the Baldwin Hotel and people watch to see what mannerisms and personalities he could mimic. Both of them were soaking up influences like a giant comedy sponge to be squeezed out later in life onto the silver screen. In 1910, Stan joined the Fred Karno Comedians on a tour of America. Fred Karno was the archetypal self-made showman, building an empire around him by channeling other people's talents into his spectacular shows. He also typified the perfect example of the thin line between comedy and tragedy, as all great comedy has a foothold in real tragedy. Whereas on stage, he brought delight to thousands with his pantomimes and popular farces. Off stage, he was a wife-beater and a serial adulterer. Karno's biggest discovery was a young man called Charlie Chaplin. It was this comic genius that Stan was to understudy and learn from during this initial tour of America. The Fred Karno troupe set sail from Southampton docks and toured the USA with a show called A Night in an English Music Hall. It was a huge success, but even though he was earning plaudits for his comedy turns, Stan decided to return to England alone. His main motivation seemed to be twofold. Firstly, he felt he deserved a chance at being the top billing, and secondly, he felt he deserved more money. Ollie was still happily settled in America, and in the year Stan was touring his mother country, Ollie set up and ran a movie theatre in the heart of Milledgeville. At 18 years of age, he was the youngest manager of a cinema in the whole of the United States. It was watching these flickering comedy two-reelers that sowed the seeds of stardom in Ollie's head. And so it was in 1913 that Ollie set off for the bright sunshine of Florida to try to break into the movie business. He took with him his Jewish wife, whom he'd met and married in a whirlwind romance. Her name was Madeline Soloshin, and she was an accomplished piano player, allowing Ollie to indulge in his favourite pastime of singing.
Shine on, harvest moon, up in the sky. I ain't had no loving since January, April, June or July. Snow time, tain't no time to stay outdoors and spoon. Shine on, harvest moon, for me and my girl.